Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day that we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, a little bit of television, some other stuff as well. Now, Monday through Friday on the John Campea Show, we save a few minutes at the end of the show to take some live questions, but on Open Mic, that is all we do, is take live, open questions, and that's what we're here for. Had a lot of stuff to watch on TV last night. Ann and I have our dogs here, and so Ann was out with some friends from Hasbro, and I settled in for the evening, watched some some UFC fights, watched a little bit of the basketball game last night. Good last evening. Later tonight, Ann and I are going to go to see the live stage production of School of Rock. So I've never seen the live stage production of School of Rock, so that should be interesting. Hey, a little bit of a programming note for you guys. Number one, tonight, that's Sunday, or at least this afternoon, on Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Ann and I are doing our all-open, spoiler-included discussion of Deadpool 2. So, if you've seen Deadpool 2, come on by and join us for that. Talk about your favorite things in the movies. Talk about things you didn't like about the movies. Talk about your funniest moments in the movies. Talk about questions you still have about the movies. Talk about questions about where they may go from Deadpool 2 on. Won't discuss that here because that would be spoilers kind of stuff, and we'll save the spoilers for later. But once again, that's at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time this afternoon. Also want to let you guys know, as a programming note, that today, Sunday, is the last day that we are doing open mics on Saturdays and Sundays. I have been convinced to take a break on Saturday and Sunday mornings. We'll still have videos on the weekends, but just probably some pre-recorded videos, and our live videos on Sundays will be mostly like spoiler discussion videos or movie club, which we're going to be starting in a couple of weeks. So, now that you guys are all caught up to date on all the programming stuff, let's dive in to the live questions today. And we are going to start with, oh, wait a minute, let's get backed up here. Okay, and we're going to get started with Ben Rayner. And Ben Rayner writes, how do theaters decide what trailers to show before movies? Well, there's no one answer to that, Ben, because there's a number of different factors that go into what trailers play before a movie. Part of it is just shuffling by the theaters. Part of it is sometimes studios specifically request to have specific trailers, their trailers play in front of specific movies. Can that happen? Red band trailers cannot play in front of films that aren't rated R, for example. So there's no one direct, straight answer that just kind of rules it all. It's a multiple different levels of things that all go into it. A bunch of studios have bought a bunch of inventory of trailers to play. Then the movie theaters figure out, okay, where to sort them out. But sometimes the studios specifically want their trailers to play in front of certain movies. Then the theaters got to figure out, can that be accommodated, blah, blah. Anyway, it's a big convoluted mess of an answer that even I, having worked at AMC and talked to the people at AMC who are in charge of this stuff, couldn't even really make heads or tails of it a lot. So it is a much more complex answer than just, oh, this guy does this, and that's how they decide. It's actually quite a involved process. Let's move on here. Phil Simone writes, John, did you see that MoviePass bought Movie Phone? Well, yeah, like over a month ago. What does it mean? Well, the basic idea, I think, and the basic idea isn't a bad idea. So for those of you who didn't hear about this, the old movie phone, the thing you used to call, but then it actually turned into its own legit movie news website that I was approached about running at one point, but never mind. Anyway, so movie phone. MoviePass, for those who didn't hear about this, a little over a month ago, around the beginning of April, MoviePass bought Movie Phone. Not the value was all that high, but they bought it. I believe that the strategy here for them with Movie Phone was to foster an online environment that would become a hub for the movie community to, promote movies that they're trying to promote, to actively engage MoviePass as a part of the film discussion, all that kind of stuff. For instance, when we started the whole thing with AMC and we started the YouTube channel for AMC Theaters, the idea was to create a film community and, to make movie going synonymous with AMC. You know, like if you think of going to the movies, you just naturally think AMC. That was kind of the idea behind it. Create great content, so much so that people get just completely included in the community that we were building. And that as a result, for those people, the concept of going to the movies became synonymous just with the idea of AMC in and of itself. So like, you don't think photocopy something, you think Xerox something, you know, something, you don't, I'm going to web search something, I'm going to Google something. So that was the idea. I think MoviePass's kind of idea here, and it wasn't a bad idea, was create their own pocket of the online film community where there's news and discussion, but it's all slanted towards getting people to use MoviePass and getting people to sign up for MoviePass. So I think that was the idea. In principle, not a bad idea. I probably could have told them it wasn't going to work if they had asked me, and for a million different reasons, very good reasons they never did ask me. But if they were to have asked me, I would have said, MoviePhone's not the property or IP you want to try to base that around. I think it would have taken a major play. And they would need the right people involved and on board to kind of then develop MoviePhone into something. And I think it was, like, again, I think it was an interesting idea that they didn't really think out. You know what I mean? But who knows? Maybe they have other philosophies and other ideas with it that we just don't know about yet. Let's see. Lucas Sorensen writes, will you still be doing the solo spoiler talk? Yes. So we are going to be doing the solo spoiler discussion next Sunday, 2 p.m. So that gives you guys Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to see the movie. And then join us for the spoiler discussion next Sunday. This Sunday, it's Deadpool. So today it's Deadpool at 2 p.m. Next Sunday, it's Solo, a Star Wars story at 2 p.m. Let's see here. Oop, we had a big jump. Hold a second. Okay. Jeremiah J writes, okay, now I know why everyone says the original Star Wars is so good. Well, I'm guessing you just got yourself into watching it, probably without exaggeration, the most influential films of all time. Like, they changed not just how people saw the movies and how people went to the movies and what expectations people bring to the movies. They didn't just usher in the idea of the blockbuster. But whenever you talk to like directors today and you talk about what were the films that influenced you, 8 times out of 10, one of the films they're going to mention is Star Wars. It's one of the influential films. I think that's why it's like one of the most important film series of all time. And I'm glad you finally got caught up on it. Okay. Alexander Olafsson writes, hey, John, have you watched any Hockey World Cup? I am from Sweden, so at the moment I am kind of nervous and happy at the same time. None. There's nowhere here I can watch it. Like, especially in Southern California, which even if it's the LA Kings, they don't pay much attention to hockey here. But like the World Cup going on while the NHL playoffs are going on, like I have said since I was a kid, for those of you who don't know, like the Hockey World Cup is going on, but for whatever reason, or the World Hockey World Championships, for whatever reason, which is different from a World Cup, they do the World Hockey Championships every year, but for some reason they hold it while the NHL playoffs are going on, which means countries can only get their best players once their best players, their NHL teams have been eliminated from the playoffs. Which is crazy. I mean, why not just put off the World Hockey Championships a couple of weeks so that all the world's best players can go and play for their countries? It's like, oh my gosh, hey, I don't know, Alex Ovechkin, we want to have him play on our team. Oh, but we can't because the Washington Capitals are still in the playoffs. Oh, well. So, I mean, I've always thought that was a really weird thing. I've never understood why they don't just bump the World Hockey Championships a few weeks so that everybody can play. Matt Thornton writes, finally saw Coco and I loved it. You know, man, I'll tell you what. Coco, not many Pixar films do I go into going, this one might be one of their stinkers. It hasn't happened often. But Coco was one of them. I mean, the marketing for Coco wasn't great. It really wasn't. And the commercials didn't do a good job of like capturing the spirit of the movie, in my opinion. They didn't do a good job capturing the spirit of it. So I really didn't know what to think of Coco. I didn't know what to expect out of Coco. And maybe that was for the best. because I went into Coco and I fell in love with that movie like in the first 5 minutes. First 5 minutes of that movie, I was completely taken with it. I was completely in love with the movie. I adored the characters. His grandma, like the kid's grandmother. Coco is actually the great grandmother. Spoiler alert: Coco is not the name of the kid, which I thought was an interesting little twist. It's charming and endearing and funny and emotional and like grown men crying tears in the theaters, and it's just such a special little movie, man. Like I adore that movie far more than I thought I would. Like far more than I thought I would. And I find a lot of people now that they're getting caught up on Coco and watching it for the first time are kind of having the same feeling. And if you haven't seen Coco, highly recommend that you check it out. All right, let's move on here. Chris Warden writes, "Morning, John. Thought on Deadpool's 125 million opening weekend. I thought it would be much higher." Well, hold a second. Let me just double check something here. I did not think the actual official numbers came in. Yeah, they're saying 125, which makes it, I think that makes it higher than the first Deadpool. I have to remember, see how much the first Deadpool made. Hold a second, let's see. Yeah, because I heard that the tracking on the first Deadpool, or the tracking on Deadpool 2 originally, this is weeks ago, was 150. So they're saying right now 125 million, which is lower than tracking. Amazing for an R-rated film, 125 million opening. I mean, that's a bigger opening weekend than It, I believe. So it's a great number, but it is lower than the 150 million that they were originally suggesting it was going to get. So, and actually significant, like you're talking 25 million less. Still, $125 million opening for an R-rated comic book movie. That's impressive, but not as impressive as that projections that they were saying that was going to be around 150. I thought it was going to be more too, because like the theaters, I've seen it 3 times now, and the theaters, not counting the first press screening, the theaters I've been in have been packed. So I'm a little bit surprised. I thought it would be a little bit, like, I didn't think it was going to make, 200 million, anything like that. Nothing ridiculous like that, but I did think it was going to be more than 125 million. So that's interesting. All right. Let's move on here. John Moto writes, "John, had a chance to revisit Forrest Gump and Castaway. What is your favorite Tom Hanks role performance?" That's something I'd have to think about. Castaway has got to rank right up there. I mean, whenever you are, as an actor, have to act by yourself, and it's just you acting off your environment, that takes a special level of acting talent. And I thought Tom Hanks crushed that. So I loved him in that. Which is one of the reasons why I think Ryan Reynolds I think it was called Buried. Ryan Reynolds, the whole movie is Ryan Reynolds in a coffin buried 6 feet underground. And the whole movie is him underground. I mean, how you carry a movie in a performance like that is incredible. That's why I thought Ryan Reynolds should have been nominated for Best Actor for that role. Tom Hanks, I mean, his role in Philadelphia, which I believe was his first Academy Award. I think his role in Philadelphia won him his first Academy Award for Best Actor. Then I think it was the following year he won it again for Forrest Gump. He's been nominated many times after that. So I don't know. I think out of those two, my favorite performance of his is Castaway. But there's so many Tom Hanks performances, I would have to sit down and think about it more. But out of those two, I would go Castaway. Castaway is something pretty special. If you were to ask my wife, beyond a shadow of a doubt, she would say Big. Because what Star Wars is to me is what Big is to Anne. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, not even a little bit. Like, Big is life. It is her all-time, beyond a shadow of a doubt, favorite movie. The only thing I have never been able to do as a husband to make my wife happy, her one big wish, more than going to the royal wedding, and my wife was psychotic for the royal wedding. That's all royal wedding this, royal wedding that, the last 24 hours. Anyway, more than any of that, more than, a concert evening with Ed Sheeran or Justin Timberlake or all that stuff, more than anything, my wife wants to meet Tom Hanks. And I've been able to introduce my wife to an awful lot of celebrities. I have never been able to introduce her to Tom Hanks. And actually, Tom Hanks is one of the very few guys right now that I've actually never met myself. I mean, brief for a split second on a red carpet once, but I've never really had the opportunity to meet Tom Hanks. And I mean, sure, I'd love to meet Tom Hanks. He's one of the greatest of all time. But my wife, it's like a bucket list thing for my wife. One of these days, not now, nobody do this. But one of these days, I think I'm going to get all you guys together. I'm going to take unfair advantage of my position as a show host, and I'm going to ask all you guys, not today, I'm going to ask all of you guys one of these days to help me in a coordinated effort to completely Twitter spam Tom Hanks and say, Tom Hanks, you need to meet Ann Campea, even if it's for 30 seconds. That's like a bucket list thing for my wife that I want to be able to do for her someday. Because seriously, I cannot put into adequate words how much my wife loves Tom Hanks. I can't even put it into words. So someday I've got to try to figure out a way to make that happen. Francisco Orozco writes, what's your take on the Pixar Theory? Dismiss it. I thought that was... Are we still talking about the Pixar Theory? No, I've dismissed it a long time ago. Kick It to the King Productions writes, after seeing Deadpool 2, my mind is as blind as to whether this Deadpool could cross over into the MCU that Iger said he would. I'm just confused. Well, I mean, look. Bob Iger never said that he could take this Deadpool and bring it into the MCU. He never said he wouldn't. But what he said before, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the basic gist of it, yeah, we could take an R-rated Deadpool and make that work in the MCU. He never specifically committed to this Deadpool. Even Ryan Reynolds has said he doesn't know what their plans are. Ryan Reynolds says, look, I would think that if they want to go through all this effort to acquire us, you'd think they'd want to use us. So that's what he thinks. But he says, honestly, I don't know. Even Ryan Reynolds has no idea. How you could take this Deadpool that we've had in Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 and merge that in with the existing MCU? Can you imagine this Deadpool in Infinity War? It just tonally, it would completely wreck the film. As awesome as Deadpool is, tone-wise, it would just completely disrupt and shatter that film. It would just break it. So I don't know. I honestly don't know what they have in mind. So whether or not they're going to do, like, yeah, Deadpool's in the MCU, but 90% of the time he sticks in his own movies and they have a few crossovers a little bit here and there, but they isolate him from their main storylines. I mean, I don't know. I honestly have no idea what their idea would be. But when you're talking about, like, again, if you're talking about things like Infinity War, how on earth could you have put Wade Wilson in that movie and kept Wade Wilson, Deadpool, consistent with his character without completely disrupting and shattering the whole tone that they were going for in Infinity War? So I don't know how you do that. That would be a big, big writing feat. That would be a huge feat if they were able to pull that off. So who knows what their plans are at this point. Then again, I got to emphasize this every time. This deal may not even go through. So let's just keep that in mind at the same time. All right. Let's move on here. Matt J Hendricks writes, so I have been thinking about this, but I would love to see a Trans-Siberian Orchestra write and record music for a film in the future. I have no idea what the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is. I believe I've heard of it, but I have no idea what it is. So I cannot comment on that, Matt. It sounds like an interesting topic to discuss, but I have to admit, I really don't know what they are, nor do I have any real awareness of them. I believe I've heard the name before, but that's about it. So I'm going to have to take a pass on the topic right now because I can't offer anything on that. Flick Talk writes, holy hell, Morena Baccarin is an angel. Oh my God. She, like, you go back all the way to Firefly. Like, I remember one of the first things that caught my attention about Firefly was the fact, who is that girl? Oh my God, Morena Baccarin is gorgeous. Like, just, like, even Ann and I are sitting and watching Deadpool 2, and, like, we just, when she's on screen, like, we both turn to each other and goes, And like Ann and I both like, she is so pretty. Like it's disarming. Like she's so pretty that it's disarming. And on top of that, she's a great actress at the same time. And I love her character. Look, I'm willing to say it. There are very, very few romantic relationships in comic book movies that I buy into at all. The Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, Peter and Gwen relationship, that totally worked. The Tony and Pepper one, that totally works. But all the jokes aside and everything, I love the relationship between Wade and Vanessa, between Deadpool and Ness. I think that's the greatest on-screen comic book romance of all time. And it's not because they're vulgar, but you could just see they make their chemistry in both Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2. You just buy into it immediately. Forget whether it's a comedy or a drama or an action film, whatever. When they put those characters together, there is such a chemistry, the way they're written, that you buy into that emotion, you buy into that romance, and you cheer for that couple. And that is something that very, very, very few comic book movies have ever really been able to pull off. Tony and Pepper, I buy into it. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's Peter and Gwen, I bought into that one. Those are two examples of ones that work. But the Deadpool Vanessa one, I don't know that there's ever been a better example of them really making something like that work. And part of the reason it works so well is because of Miranda Baccarin. And she's just so uber talented, and how, for whatever reason, her and Ryan Reynolds were able to create that chemistry together, and it just works. It just works. All right. Jeremiah J. writes, did Lucas write out the Star Wars mythology before the movies or while each movie was being shot? There is a myth that he had them all written out, and that just wasn't true. There is a great book called what's the actual word? Let me just see if I can find it here. There it is. How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. Okay, fabulous, fabulous, fabulous book. Let me see if I can get an image of it here for you guys to see. How Star Wars Conquered the Universe by author Chris Taylor. And I talked about this book a couple of years ago. It is simply the best book ever written about the real history of Star Wars and how they made it work. And let me see if I can... Oh, I can't get that on screen, can I? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull this out here. I can pull it out. Okay, give me a second here. Here we go. How Star Wars Conquered the Universe by Chris Taylor. The past, present, and future of a multi-billion-dollar franchise. I read and reviewed this book a couple years ago, and I'm telling you, I am a Star Wars historian. And there were things and stories in there that even I wasn't aware of. And Chris Taylor does such a great job of shaping the context of everything. And one of the things he talks about in the book was really how a lot of they went with Star Wars was George just very creatively on the fly, adapting it as he went. And George himself has said at times that, or alluded to the idea, or inferred that, oh yeah, I had the whole thing planned, but he did not. He did not. And like when they made Star Wars, there's a great story in the book. When they made Star Wars, George had no idea he was going to make Leia Luke's sister. When they made Star Wars, he still had no idea they were going to make Leia his sister. That's something that came up later. That's an idea he had later. I mean, so you'll hear some people say, oh yes, and there's this mythology out there that George Lucas had 12 episodes all planned out before he ever shot first day of Star Wars. Not true. Not true. And again, I cannot recommend this book enough. If you have not got it yet, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe by Chris Taylor, go check it out. It is filled with incredible stories. They've got great people involved in the book that he interviews for the book. It's just fantastic. And you don't even have to be a big Star Wars fan. Even if you're just into like really good Hollywood stories, this book's fantastic. So yeah, once again, highly recommend the How Star Wars Conquered the Universe book by Chris Taylor. Go check it out. It's fantastic. Let's see here. Sorry, I had another little jump here. Where are we? Here we go. Chris Warden writes, also, I hope you keep ranting about assigned seating in theaters. I'm with you, man, and keep up the full fight. Keep up the fight until every multiplex in North America has it. It is one of my, within moviedom, one of my passionate crusades within the confined space of moviedom is that every movie theater in North America must have pre-assigned seating. There's simply no excuse for this backwards, archaic, dark ages method of first come, first serve seating. You don't do that for concerts. You don't do that for shows. You don't do that for almost anything else. You don't do that for your airline. You don't do that for... When you buy a ticket, you buy your ticket and you know where your seat's going to be. And we are finally getting caught up to the rest of the world. But yeah, every movie theater in North America needs to have this, and we should be doing shame campaigns on movie theaters that still don't have it. There's simply no excuse. There is no valid advantage to having non-pre-assigned seating to having pre-assigned seating. Just none. Alex DeEasy writes, I live in the UK. My friend said he will pirate Ant-Man and the Wasp as he wants to avoid spoilers. He thinks it's justified, but I disagree. What do you think? Piracy's never justified. It's never justified. It's like, because here's the thing. That, and I'm not sitting here condemning people. I'm not. But I'm saying, if you're going to ask, is it justifiable? No, it's not justifiable. It's theft. It's still stealing. That argument he's making, although Disney has to be aware that by bumping back Ant-Man and the Wasp, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about here, Ant-Man and the Wasp was going to release roughly the same time in the UK as it was going to be releasing here in North America. But then, just a few weeks ago, they announced they were pushing it back another month in the UK so it wouldn't conflict with World Cup. I get it, but you have to know that when you make a decision like that, you are going to tempt a lot of people to pirate it because people in North America are watching it weeks before you do, and they're all going to be online talking about it. So you have to be aware you are tempting people to pirate it. Like, you got to be aware of that. But here's the thing. This argument of, well, I don't want to have it spoiled for me, so I'm justified in pirating it. That's like saying, well, that Lamborghini, I can't afford it. They've made it a price that I and most regular people can't actually pay. Therefore, it's okay for me to steal it. Since I can't pay for it, it's okay for me to steal it. Since it's so expensive, it's okay for me to steal it. If I could afford it, then it's not okay that I steal it. But if I can't afford it and it doesn't meet my particular context, then it's okay for me to steal it. No, you're still stealing. You're still stealing. And again, I'm not saying you're going to condemn anybody. But don't try to paint, don't try to paint a garden scene as a sci-fi scene. It is still stealing it. You want to steal it. They created this content with the intent of people purchasing it, and you want to circumvent that and steal it without paying for it. That's still theft. So no, it's not justified. I get it. I mean, I would be frustrated too. If they announced that they were putting it out, Ant-Man and the Wasp, although, let's face it, what kind of big spoilers can Ant-Man... The first Ant-Man had no huge spoilers. Most comic book movies don't have huge spoilers, but I get it. If Ant-Man and the Wasp was coming out in the UK a month before it was coming out here, I'd be kind of frustrated. I'd be like, well, holy hell, like, there's no way I'm not going to know the entire movie by the time it finally opens up here. So I get the frustration. I do. And you make whatever choices you're going to make. But if you're going to ask me if it's justified choices, no, it's still not justified. But I'm not going to condemn you at the same time either. So it's like, because I can relate with the frustration. I get it. Matt Thornton writes, I do understand the reason behind it, but it really makes me mad when movie titles are changed in different countries. Zootopia and The Avengers. I mean, I don't care. I really don't care. Who cares? It's a title. Look, there are good titles and bad titles. Some titles are great, some titles are bad. Yes, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Avengers Infinity War, it could have been titled Oogie Poogie Eat Some Pies, and it still would have been the exact same movie. It doesn't change the movie. So, and I know some people do care about titles, and that's cool. That's great. I'm just saying I personally don't. To me, it means nothing. Yes, there's good titles. Yes, there's bad titles. But ultimately, the title of a movie is just a marketing tool. That's all it is. It's nothing more. Like, you'll hear me rail against the fact that they changed the title of John Carter of Mars to just John Carter. But that's because all a film title is a marketing tool, and that was a terrible marketing decision. John Carter. That movie could be about anything. John Carter. You hear John Carter of Mars, you've got an idea what this movie's about. You know you're in for a sci-fi movie of some sort. And if you're familiar with the original source material, you know, hey, I'm getting an adaptation of that classic original source material. And blah, blah, blah. It's a marketing tool. And them changing John Carter of Mars to just John Carter was a horrible marketing decision. Ultimately, didn't change the movie one little bit. So, honestly, Matt, why should it bother us? Why should it bother us one little bit other than being miffed at a poor marketing decision? But that's just a business decision. Ultimately, the title of a film does nothing. It does nothing. Unless the title completely spoils a movie. Like, if they called Citizen Kane and How Rosebud is the name of his sled, and that's the name of the title, okay, that gives away a little bit too much. But ultimately, a title's a title. It's just a marketing tool. That's all it is. It's nothing else. There's no artistic merit in a title. It really isn't. It's just a marketing tool. Ryan Irwin Dell writes, really disappointing that 2001 showings are so limited. Really wanted to see it in theater for the first time. Yeah, but the thing is, it costs money to put these in theaters, and you can only put them in certain markets, because the reality is, if they had done a big wide release of 2001, like 3,000 theaters across the country, it would have lost them money. I mean, that's just the reality. You do specific markets, New York, screenings are going to sell out in New York. Los Angeles, screenings are going to sell out in Los Angeles. Atlanta, screenings are going to sell out in Atlanta, but most places they would not. They would just lose money. So, yeah, it kind of sucks, but at the same time, I totally understand why. Okay, you know what? Let's see. I'm just going to ban that dude just for the racist. Not surprising this dude has a massively racist username, so I'm just going to get rid of that guy. Mason Cackham writes, just saw the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What's up with Marvel lately playing with my emotions? I don't like it. I thought you know what? I had people writing to me because I usually watch a show the day after it airs because I usually watch most of my shows on Hulu. And I'm sorry, I'm still really bothered by that last guy's. And people wonder why I get so upset of racism and homophobia and sexism online. And people say, well, John, that's not really... You know what? That last guy who was just on here is just a great example of the type of horse shit that we have to deal with online. That cancers like that dude exist. And I really wish YouTube would adopt you have to use your real name. I think YouTube should adopt the exact same thing that Facebook is trying to implement. I think on YouTube, your name should be public and your contact information should be public. I think your home address should be public. I think if you're going to get on, like these really gutless wonders, these keyboard warriors, these internet tough guys who put together racist shit like that and put online, I want to see how many of these guys would be so tough if it's their real name in there. Yeah, come online and make statements like that. And let's put your real name. Let's see how tough you really are, tough guy. But anyway, there you go. Anyway, let's get back to Mason Cackman's thing. Just saw the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What's up with Marvel lately? Playing with my emotions. I don't like it. See, so I watch these shows usually a day late. And I had a few people writing to me. It's like, oh my gosh, the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was so good. So last night, I finished watching the UFC fights. Anne wasn't home yet, had some time to kill. Thought, okay, I'm going to watch the season finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Give me a break. Really? Okay, for those of you who care, I'm about to spoil. For those of you who watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and you haven't seen it yet, you're going to want to pause or mute your computer here for about 1 minute, okay? Because I'm about to spoil it. So mute it for a minute. I'm just giving you a heads up warning right now. Okay, and go. Really? This whole thing has been building up to this whole thing about destroyer of worlds and blah, 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 and then building up the general, and he's got all the gravitonium, and they're setting up this, first of all, out of nowhere, they're setting up this fight between him and Quake, and the fight is one shot. The whole season builds up to, boom, in space, frozen, and it's like, really? That's what that whole buildup was for? And this whole thing that they were doing about how putting Daisy Johnson's now in command, and I'm just like, this is just a great example about why this show sucks. Absolutely no consistency within its own framework. Really? So Agent May, who is a veteran, is a military leader, is the senior, blah, 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 blah. Coulson's unconscious. Let's make Daisy, who just a couple of seasons ago was just a computer hacker, she's now in command. Like, that's why this show is so stupid. That's just another example about why this show is so dumb, and I can just not get on board with this show. Other than Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson, it's the only reason I keep watching the show. And then there's this big build-up, and the big final fight is one shot, and that's the season. That was the climax of the entire season, and they wrapped it up into a 15-second package. And I'm like, oh God, this is why this show sucks. But I know there's a bunch of you guys who like it. By the way, you can start watching it. You can unmute your computer. You can unmute your computer now. I won't spoil anything else. I get there's a whole bunch of people that really like the show, and that's awesome. If you like this show, that's great. Wonderful. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. But that's why, for me, this show just continues to be dumb. And that's just my opinion. Whatever. Mason, you clearly liked it, and that's all that matters. Is that you liked it, and that's great that you liked it. Preston Walden writes, could the upcoming X-Force film replace X-Men as the new mutant franchise? Keep up the great work and go Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think so. Like, you just have your biggest characters in the X-Men. And the biggest stories are in X-Men. So I think X-Force will be a great addition to the X universe. Does it replace X-Men? I don't see that personally. Personally, I don't see that happening. I mean, you could. I mean, it might be in the cards for them. That might be ultimately what their plan is. But for me, it doesn't equate that way. So I would say no. I think X-Force is a great addition to it, to be an accent and to play off the X-Men. But to replace X-Men, I don't think it stands on its own that way. Let's see. Well, that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong about that. Lucas Sorensen writes, thanks, John. Glad you're doing it despite it all. Well, thanks so much, Lucas. I appreciate that. Jeremiah J. writes, with all the hype, do you think if Reynolds did Buried right now, would he be nominated for another AW if you had... I don't know what AW is, so I sorry, Jeremiah. Guys, I always try to encourage you, please do not use acronyms. Please don't use, because half the time I don't know what it is you're talking about. You, like, in your head, oh, it means this, but then I'm reading it here and I have no idea what it means. Hicks Flicks writes, is there a film that you thought would do huge numbers at the box office but flop? For me, it's probably John Carter. Well, I mean, I was never convinced John Carter would do huge numbers. You know, the source material is very old source material. It's not like it's totally relevant to the pop culture. But it was a very good movie, so I thought it would do well. I wasn't sure it would do massive numbers. A movie that I thought would do really big, massive numbers and didn't. Well, Justice League. Like, you guys know, I've like Justice League, I argued forever. It will cross $1 billion in its sleep. Justice League will cross $1 billion in its sleep. The only question is, will it get to $2 billion? That was for me with Justice League. Now, Justice League did not flop. I mean, it lost, according to new reports and Deadline, it did lose money. But it's not like it lost the farm, right? It made over $650 million at the box office, which is nothing to sneeze at. So that's fine. So I would not qualify Justice League as a flop. It's not a flop. In terms of did it come anywhere close to its potential? No. Again, that's a movie that easily, in its sleep, without even thinking twice, should have crossed $1 billion in a heartbeat. The only challenge would have been, could this movie get to $2 billion? And then the audience held a referendum on whether or not they were ditching on the DCEU or not, or whether or not they believed in the DCU. And the audience's referendum was a resounding no. Instead of hitting that number that they should have reached in their sleep, they just barely got over halfway there. So that's the one to me that I really thought would be a big hit. But it didn't flop. You still can't, a movie that makes $650 million, you can't with a straight face say it flopped. Yes, in terms of how well did it do to its own potential, sure. But it was not a flop, per se. So, but that's the film that comes to mind the most. All right. I got time for a few more here. Dakota Barber writes, John, you should look up the teaser for this movie called Beautiful Boy. It's about this dad who struggles to help his son through his crystal meth addiction. It has Steve Carell and looks great. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not aware of that film. I'm not aware of that. I will look it up. It sounds like a little bit of a Beatty kind of movie, but if Steve Carell's in it, I'm sure it's probably going to be awesome. So I will check that out. Thank you, Dakota, for bringing that to my attention and to everybody's attention. Maurice Cook writes, Big John, would you like to see a Star Wars story of Vader hunting down the remainder Jedi after the Revenge of the Sith? No. Don't get me wrong. If they did it, I would be there, sure. But my first choice is always do something new. We've gone backwards so much in Star Wars. Star Wars has gone, and yeah, granted, Solo came out, and I like Solo a lot. Okay, great. But it just seems like everything is about going backwards in Star Wars. With the exception of Episode 7 and Episode 8 and Episode 9, yes. But you have this opportunity to explore all this kind of stuff. And I have a feeling, like it sounds like the Jon Favreau show is going to be exploring new characters, new adventures, that's great. But would I be interested in seeing a Vader one? I wouldn't be excited about it. I would be there opening day for sure, because it's Vader and it's hunting down Jedis. So sure, I'll be there. But I could think of about 20 other Star Wars types of movies I would rather them do instead of that, to be quite honest with you, because I'm over the going backwards thing. I want new stories, new characters, new things to tell. Let's see. Connor Diaz writes, you're the best. Oh, no, sorry. That was a bit of a jump. There we go. Roll out the reels writes, do you think Incredibles will open up to 150 to 200 million? No, I don't. The first Incredibles, a lot of people forget this. The first Incredibles opened up to $70 million and worldwide made 630. Only 2 Pixar films have ever made $1 billion. A lot of people forget that. But only 2 Pixar, out of all the incredible films Pixar has done, only 2 have ever crossed the $1 billion mark. And they both barely crossed that mark. I don't see Incredibles, but The Incredibles doesn't have to make $150 million to be a huge hit. I like the first one opened to 70. I think this one can open to 100 plus. I think it can open to 100 plus. I don't see it doing 150. It's certainly within the realm of possibility. 200, just throw that away right now. 150 is within the realm of possibility, but I wouldn't put any money on that. I can see it cracking 100, but 200, no, I don't really see that happening. All right, next up here comes from us to John Moto, who writes, I always thought Margot Kidder / Christopher Reeve had great on-screen chemistry. R.I.P. to both. I'll say this. I thought, well, Margot Kidder, to me, Margot Kidder's Lois Lane is the standard by which I measure all other Lois Lanes. Seriously. While I love the Christopher Reeve Superman, I think Henry Cavill's a better Superman than Christopher Reeve was. I know, sorry, but I do. I just do. But Margot Kidder, to me, she defined Lois Lane. And I found that every Lois Lane that's come after, I compare them and measure them up to Margot Kidder's Lois Lane, and they all come up short. I mean, they all have done a great... Every Lois Lane we've had has been an original, a unique take on Lois Lane, and they've all done a fine job. Nothing bad for me to say here. Except the Lois Lane in Superman Returns, because that was just bad. That was just miscasting. Anyway. And I liked their... I like the chemistry between Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve. I like the chemistry. I don't think it's as good as, say, the Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow chemistry. I don't think it's quite as good as the Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone chemistry. Now, I know there's a lot of people screaming at the computer monitors, you can't say that! Well, that's just what I honestly think. It's cool if you disagree. I'm sure there are many, many, many people who disagree with me. That's totally fine. But I always enjoyed Christopher more and Margot more than I even liked the two of them together. Although I do think their chemistry was good. I thought the chemistry was good, but I would put a few other comic book on-screen couples ahead of them. Personally, that's just me though. Let's see. Matt J Hendricks writes, would they explore the Thor /SIF romance like the comics? I doubt it. Jamie Alexander's pretty busy. Like her show... what is even the name of her show? It's called... I can't remember the name of her show. The show where she's got like all the tattoos on her. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it just got renewed for another season as well. So she's going to be kind of tied up with that. That's the reason they haven't used Lady Sif in the Avenger stuff. And they haven't said she's dead. They just... we can't use her right now. She's busy, so she's not there. So I don't think we will. I don't think we'll explore that. If anything, they've kind of set up where it looks like they're kind of setting up Thor and Valkyrie. It looks like they could do a Thor and Valkyrie relationship later on. That's if we get any more Chris Hemsworth Thor movies after Avengers 4. I think they will, but there's an awful lot of people out there. There's very, very solid arguments to be made that Avengers 4 could be Chris Hemsworth's final MCU movie as Thor. I don't think so. But there's there's some strong evidence to suggest that maybe it would be. So we got to keep, so maybe they won't be exploring any more romances for Thor. We'll have to wait and see. Jublick writes, hey John, longtime fan, something for all the hot toy fans. Website called Sideshow Toy allows payment plans for hot toys. Worth checking out. Here's the thing with me though, Jube. I am not a fan of payment plans. With the exception of huge ticket items, your car, your house, fine. For me, one of the reasons I have always kept myself financially above water is because I do not buy things on installment plans. If I can't afford to buy it, then I don't buy it. And I wait until I have the money to buy it. I'm just the type of guy that, and I encourage other people in this too, that I know how much money I have every month, and I don't have to see how much money do I have every month. Now subtract out all the monthly payments I have to make to other crap. You may have to do that with your taxes, you may have to do that with your car, and you may have to do that with your home, but beyond that, don't pay for anything on installment plans. It's just good discipline. If you can't afford it, then don't buy it. And if you really want it, start saving and buy it when you can afford it. You will save yourself so much financial hassle in your life. I did the same thing for college. I did not pay for college in installment plans. I did not get student loans, although that's a huge expense. So clearly, if you do have to do student loans, nothing wrong with that. I was in a position where I could wait an extra year, make sure I got my money, no student loans, just paid for my college and just did it that way. It also helped that I was able to live at home. But anyway, so I would not encourage people to go into installment plans for something like, and you can see I love my collectibles. I love collectibles. I'm not a huge collector, but you can see I really like these things. They're great for imagination. They spark imagination. They're wonderful. I dig them a lot. But I would not encourage people to go on payment plans. If you can afford it, buy it. If you can't afford it, don't buy it and wait until you have the money set aside and then buy it. Don't do installment plans. That's just my recommendation. If at all, whenever possible, avoid installment plans. If you can't afford it, then don't buy it. That's kind of how I live my life, man. That's why I've been looking at a new computer. I've known for a while. I've known for about 6 months now that I need a new computer. Just my CPUs have been maxing out with all the stuff I'm trying to do here, and it's just I've had a few technical problems that have happened as a result of it's the computer I've got. And I've got a pretty good computer, but I need a new computer. But I've been setting aside money and setting aside money and setting aside money. I'm not buying a new computer until I can just buy it. Because once I have the money set aside, then I know I can afford it. Then I will pay for it. So we get ourselves, I have a good buddy of mine who got himself into so much trouble. It's like, oh, I can buy that new thing because it's only $50 a month. But then he does that with 5 or 6 other things. Before you know it, he's got like monthly pay. He's got like $600 in monthly payments he's making. He doesn't own any of his stuff, and it's just So anyway, this is financial planning with John Campea. Anyway, so Zizu writes. Wait a second. I think we had another jump here. Oh, there we go. Okay, Connor Diaz writes. You're the best, man. Adore you and all you do. Thank you so much, Connor. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's really nice. Zizu writes. Magnum PI, my all-time favorite show, and just saw a trailer for the new series. It looks so bad, like Fast and the Furious in Hawaii. Just know I'll stick with the original. Well, I mean, don't get too carried away, Zizu. You know, we always say this. Never get too carried away about a trailer. Love a trailer, hate a trailer, but always keep in mind that it may or may not be a good reflection of what the show's going to be or what the movie's going to be. We've seen tons of great trailers to terrible movies. We've seen tons of bad trailers to good movies. So I would say, look, if you're really a Magnum PI fan, give the show a chance and see what the show does. Don't base your decision on the trailer. Never base your decision on a piece of marketing. Like, let the marketing increase or decrease your excitement level. But if you're a Magnum PI fan, I'd say give it a shot because who knows? You know, a lot of people about the whole Lethal Weapon thing saying, I'm not going to watch a Lethal Weapon show. I love the movies too much. Well, then I've never seen Lethal Weapon, the TV show, but a bunch of people have watched it and they like it. So it's like, great. So just give it a chance. And then let me know if it's a pile of crap or not. Let me know if it's good or if it's a big pile of junk or not. Let's see here. Warrington Train Spotter 2778 writes, have you seen the new Magnum PI? No, I have. It's funny you mentioned that. We were just talking about that. No, I haven't seen it yet myself. Koba writes, you go back in time to the 3rd of April, 1968 with the new release. Do you watch Planet of the Apes or 2001 Space? Oh, Koba, you son of a bitch. That's a tough one. Whew, and I could watch it on its opening day. And I could say, I mean, clearly this is all before I was born, but I could watch one of those classic movies on opening day. And it's just one. Oh my God. Oh. You know what? I'm going to go Planet of the Apes. I'm not sitting here saying whichever one is better. I'm not saying Planet of the Apes is better, but I think Planet of the Apes might be the one I lean towards. Ooh, that's a tough one. Oh, that's a Sophie's choice, man. That is a Sophie's choice. But I think I'll lean towards Planet of the Apes on that one. Oh, but it hurts to say that. It hurts, Koba. All right, last 2 questions of the day. John Key writes, thoughts on Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury? We haven't seen Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury, so we have no idea. We've seen a trailer. That doesn't tell us anything. We've seen a trailer where he speaks one line, so that doesn't tell us anything. Look, I'll say this. What do you think about X actor in X role? Is X actor a good actor? Well, Rami Malek is clearly, he's an award-winning actor. Yes, he's a good actor, so great. He's playing Freddie Mercury. That was my thought. When I heard that he got the role, because remember, for the longest time, it was supposed to be Sacha Baron Cohen. A lot of people forget that now. For like 5 years that this movie was being kind of put together, Sacha Baron Cohen was going to play Freddie Mercury. And then it all kind of fell apart. They this, then somebody else was going to play it, and then it ended up on Rami Malek. So Rami Malek's a good actor, so why not put him in that role? He looks fine in the trailer, but the trailer doesn't really tell us anything at this point. So, but I'm all for it. I mean, he's a good actor, so let's see how he does. But really ask me more about my opinion of him as Freddie Mercury once we've at least seen a few more trailers where he has more than one line, and really until we see the movie in it. But overall, John, what do you think of X actor in X role? Is X actor a good actor? Yes? Then fine. Then it works. So let's see how it turns out. All right, final question of the day. Matt J Hendricks writes, how would you introduce the Fantastic Four in the MCU? I think Stark will sell the Avengers Tower to Reed Richards. I've answered this question before. I've said it same. I'm going to stay consistent. I would introduce them into the MCU by not bringing them into the MCU. It's that simple. Even if the deal between Fox and Disney goes through, and it may not, but if it does, I would keep it separate. I would keep Fantastic Four and X-Men in a separate universe. The MCU is already overcrowded. It's already overcrowded. There's a superhero on every corner. And I just think you're tying your hands too much narratively about what you can and cannot do. Like, the first time the Fantastic Four face any type of a global catastrophe, there was guys. Why didn't Captain America show up? Why didn't Vision come help? Why didn't all, like, it's an overcrowded universe where every single 7-Eleven has 7 superheroes hanging out into it. And I just think narratively you're tying your hands too much. And I know they're not going to do this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is what Marvel's going to do. No, I know they're not going to do it. But what I would do is I would keep Fantastic Four and X-Men in a separate universe. So they have more creativity. They have more freedom to tell different types of stories without having, but we can't do that story because that would contradict with what we're doing in Doctor Strange 2 and what we're going to do in Black Panther 4. So, like, there's just too much of that. I would keep it separate. That's honestly how I would keep it, completely separate, and that's how I would do it, and I'm sticking with that. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open